Well, here we are again. If you happen to be watching it again, special treatment number 2 for my brother. And as I went through a little bit of the history and I went through a little bit of the basics in the first one, I also touched on some of the stuff that we had already talked about. But I'm going to continue. This one is called The Breath of God. This is would be lesson number 1. If I was treating somebody, that other one would have been during the evaluation is in you or stuff that you have, especially when you talk about the sleeping issues. Today, I'm going to talk about pain, and I'm calling this one the breath of God. Okay. Now, if all energy that comes into our body is the same, which we talked about last time, that means all attacks are built of the same energy. All of our senses are really divided up into 5 main senses: eyes for sight, ears for hearing, smell, taste, or things that come into our body through our eating, and things that we feel that happen to us, which also includes movement. Okay. Movement is in the feeling category. There's sensory, you're out of your body and in your joints. There's sensory nerves that record every single thing. As a matter of fact, it's been scientifically proven that every single sensory impulse that our bodies feel, our brain records. And how do I know this? Because in this I learned back when I was in school. They're talking about now. Christ was, I think, around then. That was a lot ago, 40 years ago. Anyway, so 40 years ago, they were talking about this because we happen to have a psychologist who was very big into hypnotism. He used to hypnotize guys in class. He was very good at it, by the way, psychiatrist. Well, anyways, he already had proven, he'd bring films in and show, and that people could be hypnotized, and with very good hypnosis guys and people who were very susceptible to it, they could be hypnotized, and then they could be brought back to any month, date, or even moment in their life and be told, okay, I want you to think back to December 7th, 1981. The person's laying on a table there thinking, where are you at? It is 9:30 in the morning. I'm at work, sitting at my desk. What does your desk look like? I have papers in front of me. What are you doing? I'm doing a report for my boss. I'm writing. What are you writing? And then they'll tell you, right, what they're writing. They'll tell you what it feels like. Was it hot? Was it cold? If they hear something, an alarm go off, or something on the TV, they will tell you what they hear, even if they're not looking at it, because everything gets registered. That's how precise it is. I've seen this. It's amazing. The mind records everything. And it's like going to a library. When they're hypnotized, they can go there and they can just pull out the book and open the page to a certain moment, and they can read all of the little signals. That's how precise the mind is. The mind is a recorder. It records everything that happens to us. It records everything in the 5 senses, and even some in the 6th sense that we imagine, dreams, etc. And it puts them on shelves. Okay. The more godly those are, the deeper carved into our psyche that they become. Keep that in mind. We'll talk about that later. That's biblically spoken. So this is all biblically based. Okay. So your mind receives all of these signals. That means everything that comes in, whether it's food, eyes, ears, smell, every breath you take, it's all energy coming in. It's built of the same stuff, same quantum stuff. Okay. And there's either a good intent, which is godly, for life. The day is a blessing. Every day is a blessing for us. Every breath is a blessing when you realize that God breathes his life into us. Physical fact. Now we get back into the medical. That's where I'm a medical guy. You don't suck in air. You make space and God pushes the air in. Physical fact. As a matter of fact, it is us who exhales using our chest and various muscles that pushes our air out. If you really expand your chest and breathe in, then it will come back to neutral, like when you die, but you won't completely exhale. Come back to a neutral position. We breathe out, we actually push with our chest. We push with our abdomen. We push with various back muscles. That's why when we're short of breath or we have a heavy exertion, remember, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, fighting. My God, I've done a little fighting. I know. I'm not like you, but I mean, yeah, I did some martial art. I know what that feels like. You get to a point where you can't even lift up your arms because you're so oxygen depleted. And you got to bend over just to catch your breath. To catch your breath, to catch it. Those words are important. You try to catch the breath that God is pushing into you. Okay? So he pushes the breath into you. Breath of God. Why is that important? We're the spiritual therapies here. We use this stuff. Okay? You are created in the image of God. What does that mean? That means that he creates you that you look like him and can act like him. Jesus said, you can do anything I did and more because I'm with my Father in heaven. Well, you're the Son of God. Does that mean we can create with our mouths? Yeah. Good and bad. So when we hit our hand and they say, God damn it, are we cursing our hand? Yeah. Instead, we should have said, blessed. Oh, blessed Lord, please. I'm so glad I got this hand. You look in the mirror and criticize yourself. Anna looks in the mirror and always says beautiful things about herself. She says, I don't say the things, I say kind of what I want to see. And lo and behold, it kind of happens. So I thought I'd try it. When I first met Anna, I had these big love handles. And I just looked in the mirror and I said, I'm glad those love handles are gone. I tried that for about 6 months, and you know what? They're gone. Scientifically proven. Like when I was in school, they talked about these Bell Howell laboratories or whatever, where they were developing this machine that they could turn the frequencies down on these sensors, and they could censor frequencies of sound at lower and lower and lower and lower frequencies. And what that meant was they were taking it and they were attaching it to like a table. And then they would turn the sound frequency down and it would hear discussions that happened a day earlier, 2 days, a week earlier, a month earlier. The lower the frequency, the quieter the sound. But then they could clearly hear this machine had ultra sensitivity, was able to pick up sound. So then they took it to the Forum in Rome and attached it to these stone columns and were able to hear discussions that had taken place thousands of years ago. Truth. It was an ultra sensitive sound sensing machine. And what it proved is that sound never depletes. It just starts out with big waves, and then they get less and less and less. And when it hits solid objects, the sound, I know this from my physical therapy, we used to have to use ultrasound gel for ultrasound because the sound would go in through the gel into the person's arm, go to the other side and bounce back and forth, back and forth. The sound would be, and it would get softer every time it went. But it would never it was always a half of a half is still a half. And half of that is another half, another half, another half, another half, another half. But it's always there. Once created, it's everlasting. And that's what God said. When he created the earth, it was going to be everlasting. We are created everlasting. He created us with sound. His voice created us. We're going to be everlasting. We create with our mouth, with the breath of God, things. I'm saying these truths right now, and you're hearing them for the first time in the universe, and it bounces in and back and forth in your house. It bounces. And that's something new, something good, good intent. It's good energy. It's truth. All truth comes from God. If this is truth, then it must come from God. Simple logic. You're a logical guy. I know that about you. Yeah. That's what a lot of people love about you. That's why you see this stuff that doesn't make any freaking sense, and you get mad about it because it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. It's not logical to any sane in person that somebody would want to eat children or drink blood. It's not making sense. Not logical. You know, the devil, wisdom comes also from God. All wisdom comes from God. And chaotic craziness comes from the devil. He makes people, or God removes wisdom, and they're left with the lack of wisdom, idiocy. That's what he says, even in the end. It's in Revelations. He will make, men wise, but he will also take away wisdom from those who call themselves wise. These doctors who call themselves wise. Listen, anybody who's willing to take a paycheck and give anybody this, whether they take it or not, they're just murderers. I said, those guys are pretty powerful, but I don't like to use their name. But I did. Sat around with these oncologists, and they're sitting there making jokes about this stuff. And then finally one guy goes, yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I don't even like to be around when that bottle gets opened and you put the thing there because it's so, he goes, I know. He goes, I'd never take that. Oh, you got that right. And I'd never take any of this stuff. And I'm listening to these guys talk about their families and them. They would never take it, but they don't have a problem prescribing it. You got all these nurses and doctors now that say, I'm going to quit because I'm not going to take a jab myself. Well, how many jabs have you given? You know what? I'm thinking what's going on here is that the deep state has forced their people and said to them, give the jabs. I will pay you $32,000 for every. The doctors, okay, but I'm not taking it. But I don't mind selling it. I don't sell it, yeah. And then there comes, so now they're saying, now you got to take it too. I'm going to be the hero now. Okay. I'm not willing to take it. I'm willing to quit my job. Were you willing to quit your job before you gave it? Because if you were giving it to other people, fuck you. You might as well just stay in your job. Yeah. Any Auschwitz doctor that operated on children and women and then begged for forgiveness afterwards because they were really just trying to promote science. It's bullshit. Okay. They were promoting evil. They were lining their pockets with money to give these injections to people. I know a lot of companies out there that stood in line when the first injections were coming out so that they could not only get them, but they could give them to people so that they could get the big contracts to go out there and give them to the nursing homes. Who do you think gave them to the nursing homes? All these home health companies and stuff. Yeah, they loved it, all that money they were getting. And now they're like, we have to have it? Oh, okay. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. If our parents have to go to the hospital and they inadvertently sign that form, and the form says, hey, we are allowed to give you the jab whether you want it or not, because you signed the form, and they get it, whether they even know they got it or not, because they do. If they go to the hospital, they go in the nursing home, they go to the emergency room, they get it. I know for a fact. All the hospitals do it here. And they're not just doing it here in Phoenix because Phoenix is the hot spot. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Okay. If they didn't know, if they even knew, but were lied to about it, knowing now gets rid of the curse. Okay. So the curse will have no effect on them. Okay. And guess what? Because they're under your responsibility. You're the only one who has to believe this. And it works for them automatically. Okay. Back to pay. So these things happen to us, these attacks, and they're all the same. We've talked about it. And we can, knowing that they're mostly curse, eliminates the curse. Now, what does a curse do to us? Okay, if the energy is all the same, then what's the difference between the good energy, which is built of the same stuff, and the bad energy? The curse. That's the only difference. Good things that happen to us, truths that we take into us, have a positive effect on us. Now, some things, like sometimes truths come and we say, I don't know if I believe that. You know, Biden wearing a mask? No, I don't. No, he's our president. And they bounce off. They don't become part of us. Sometimes truths, people take truths in. Oh, I'll believe it, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want to lose my own job. That's taking that in. That's the Dead Sea. We all know what happens to the Dead Sea. Water goes in, nothing goes out. Everything in it is dead. Okay, that's stifled. Jesus himself said, the landlord, the Lord, decided to leave for a little while. So he gave 5 coins to each of 3 guys. And one guy, he gave 5. That guy went and gave it to everybody. Spread it all out, all 5, or all 10. I think it was 10. All 10. The other guy decided, well, I better only give out half. So he gives out half. And the last guy, he buries it in a jar. He keeps it for himself, doesn't share with anybody. The gift that the Lord had given him. Lord comes back and says to the first guy, what did you do with that money I gave you? I shared it with everybody. I shared all 10 and I got 10 back. I got 20. Good and faithful servant. Take all 20 and go. You did good. The other guy goes, I shared 5 and I got 5 back. Now I have 15. Good and faithful servant. Take the 10 I gave you and the 5. Yours, and go. Last guy, what did you do? He goes, well, I know what kind of ruler you are and you're strict. So I wasn't going to risk it. So I put it in the jar. Here it is. Here's the 10. He wanted to keep it for himself. And he said, you're a liar. You were hoping I wasn't going to come back and you were planning on keeping it yourself. Because if you knew If you thought I really was as strict as I was, you would at least invested it in the bank and got some interest, but you didn't. I'll take it away from you, and I'm going to give it to the guy that did the 10. Not the guy that did the 5. I'm going to give it to the guy that did 10, because he shared with everybody. Okay? That is what God does. And that's why I know when we go and we claim these stuff, and we know that it's spiritual, and we know that there's an intent, okay? It's the people who bring in those truths but don't share them, that they have a stifling effect, a constricting effect. Goodness can still constrict when it's not shared. That's called selfishness. But that's not greed. Evil is greed. The difference between selfishness and greed is the difference between a person who gets gifts from God and doesn't want to share, and a person who gets gifts from God but doesn't want other people to get gifts from God, and he wants their gifts, not because he needs them, because he's already got his own. He just doesn't want them to have it. That's greed. That's evil. So when a negative intent comes in, when we, AKA Luciferians, blood drinkers, they take in negative effect, curses, and they make them part of themselves, even if they're sharing them with others. Okay, when we take in goodness and share it, and it passes through us, Quantum Ascension, we ascend. That increased energy comes into our body that has this much energy, and when it passes through us, it has the result of kicking our energy up a little bit. And with every truth, go up a little more, and a little more, and a little more, and a little more. And that increased vibration has an effect of activating different things in us. And we build up wisdom in the process as we share it. That facilitates that motion. If we don't, it's like a spring that's being tightened. And eventually we snap, or worse. Negative has the opposite effect. When the negative energy comes in, it pushes us down. And those who share negative, it builds up their negative energy. They become darker. You know what I'm talking about. You see people that are dark, people that are light walkers, practices of light. You yourself are one of them. Their eyes, you can see it in their eyes. Their eyes sparkle. It's just there. And you know what? God showed me in a dream. And I'm going to tell you this dream because you're my friend. I don't usually tell too many people my dreams, but I'm going to tell you. And in this dream, this was probably about a year after my tub experience, he says, think about these people. And so I closed my eyes and I would think about them and picture their faces. Most of the people I could picture had gray eyes, just normal. Maybe some of them were a little on the gray side, the whites. Some of the people I could picture had sparkling eyes like diamonds. And some of the people had black, not black eyes like around their eyes, black inside, black, when I close my eyes and think about them. And what I realized was God was showing me a vision of their soul. Okay, that was just something he shared with me. Okay. I'm not special. I'm sure he'd share it with anybody who would ask. But for me, I've used it as a way to kind of, what I do is when I meet somebody and then I go home and I wonder about that person, I close my eyes and I try to picture their face. And sometimes I'm surprised to see black eyes staring back at me. But I've learned in time that almost every time I see that, and if I continue a relationship with them, I'm mistaken, and it ends up being a detrimental situation in my life because they are dark inside. Those are those people there, the dark ones. Most of the people are in the middle. They just have normal looking eyes. And then there's the ones that are ascended and have the sparkling eyes, that when I close my eyes and think of them, all I see is light, little sparkles of light, like jewels sparkling out. In the Bible, it says that the eyes are the windows to our soul, or a lamp to our soul, but they say windows too. Depends on the translation. So if that's the case, we should be able to see into those windows and take a glance at a person's soul. And I think that's what God was showing me. Okay. We use these truths. And today we're talking about the breath of God. So let's not get off the subject. So when we see things in our attacks or sense an attack, pain, okay, I've got just 27 minutes into it, so let's not get too far off subject. Pain is a receptor. Pain is an alarm. Thank God that he gave us a body that is not only able to feel, taste, smell, hear, but it also can sense attacks. You know what I'm talking about. You're a fighter. And you wouldn't have been as successful as you were if you weren't able to sense when the guy was getting ready to do something. You know, and that sense is wisdom. But it's also a training of our body to pick up on the nuances and recognize things that we've seen and felt, combinations and smells, little twitches, just without even knowing, oh, that means that. Get ready, attack's coming. Pain is the same thing. Pain is an alarm. 3 ways to take care of an alarm. You can muffle it by putting a wet rag over it. That's what pain medicine does. It muffles your ability to feel. Not good. Put a wet rag over the fire alarm. If there's a fire in the house, if you survive the night and if it doesn't burn you to death, you probably get smoke inhalation and die anyway. So that's not a smart way to do. You could disarm the alarm by going in, cutting it, or taking out the battery, and it won't make that noise anymore. They do that. After 7, 8 visits to the pain specialist for a problem in your shoulder, they'll tell you after 7 or 8 times, and morphine and all these different things don't help, we can just go in and cut the nerve. But you won't be able to feel anything. But the pain will stop. The pain's not the enemy. The enemy's the enemy, the one doing the attack. Now, with pain, the thing about it is, because of our experiences, sometimes we can become hypersensitive. A part of our body can be, because our body's not hooked to our brain. Oh, yes, it is in movement, but it isn't in thinking. Like you can't say to the elbow, well, you do know that you're getting ready to get a hammer to the elbow because don't worry, it's not going to hurt. You know, it just feels. Okay, it experiences. And if it feels something that reminds it of something traumatic, PTSD. I've worked with a patient with PTSD. As a matter of fact, I had a guy who came to me And he would have these sudden panic attacks, fall over onto the floor, and literally start shaking, couldn't breathe, almost like having seizures, but he weren't seizures because he was wide awake and he wasn't, but he just was shaking. Okay. And he knew it was PTSD. He had horrible experiences in Afghanistan. I think it was Afghanistan, might have been Iraq. But basically, he was always out on patrol and he had to do a lot of missions and killing people, and people were shooting at him. And he would have recurring dreams of his friend when they were out on patrol, his best friend. They were walking along and the guy stepped on a mine and blew up right in front of him. And the body parts were all over his body, pieces of his friend. Something right out of a Rambo movie, but this is true. So we started working together. And he said, I don't think you can help me. I'm taking I don't want to keep taking these drugs because they're not helping. All they do is numb my senses. But man, all day long, every day, it seems like I'm going along and then boom, it just happens. These pills, they do make me dumb and they dumb me down, but I feel like I can't think. I can't do anything. I can't make love to my wife. I can't do anything when I take these pills. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to push you down, keep you out of contact with the spirit. So we started analyzing it. I said, sometimes your body gets hypersensitive. Your body starts feeling it. It'll hear a sound, smell a smell, taste a taste, or whatever, a song. I go, tell me about the time when your friend, that was the most, you said it yourself, it's the most horrific. See, even when he started talking about it, he immediately went to that event. They always know right away. They go right to the right event. That's God. He will show them what is the key, what's the door. Okay. So he starts talking about this thing. He goes, it's just a routine mission. We went out and this area we'd been to 100 times and it was no big deal. And as a matter of fact, we were just kind of casually walking around. He said, and my friend was even making a joke, and he asked me if I wanted something to drink. He pulled out a can of Coke and opened a can of Coke and started drinking, and boom. And then we started analyzing it, like, well, what time of day was that? And what else was going on? Who else was with you? What else were they saying? Was there music? Could you hear music? Different things like that, trying to figure out, was there triggers out there? Come to find out, it was the can of Coke. Every time this guy hears that, psst, he would freak out and fall over in utter horror. Not because of gunshots, which is what he always thought it was, but he wasn't hearing gunshots. And suddenly, in the middle of the night, he wasn't hearing gunshots, and he just started, but he would hear noises that his body would hear, and would, he became hypersensitive to anything, crickets. Once he saw that it was spiritual, that is just, and he was able to put his senses on that. A can of Coke can't hurt him. But thank God, God gave him this system that would make him alert. So the same thing wouldn't happen to him that happened to his best friend. That's what pain does. You have pain in your back, but you carry enormous burdens. You carry the burdens for your whole family. You always have. You're the big guy. You're the champ. It's your job. So when your family suffers, you suffer. And you had to perform. You had to do this stuff. You had to be champion. Because what happens if you lose this? What are you going to do? What's going to happen to your family, your future? Pressure, 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 pressure. Look at my fist. Okay, normal color. See that white? That's what pressure does to our back. It causes the tendons and the muscles to contract out of fear. And that white, there's no circulation there. not like this one. And that white, but it's still working. It's still building up toxins. It still needs fuel. It still needs food. And when you leave it sit like that for months, years, before you know it, this area becomes degenerated. It becomes poison, toxic. Now I let up. I can barely open my hand. And that was only for a minute. Can you imagine what happens in the back over a case of months? The attack is that spirit attacking your back with guilt and with pressure. A man carries his burdens in his back. Women carry it in their neck, shoulders. Men carry it in their back. That's because that's the way they're designed. Okay, they're designed to do that. You know, knowing that, and you know the pressures that are going on from the family, I'm not going to let that bother my back anymore. Back, you can relax. I've got this. You don't have to be worried anymore about the family. I've got this under control. And then you can relax those muscles like I tried to do on the couch and get them to just relax. And then the blood can come back in and can clean it out. Oh, by the way, every cell in your body, every atom in your body is replaced, every one, over a 2-year period. So nothing that has happened in your past can have a physical effect on your today unless you let it. Think about that. In the spirit, if you believe you have something that's infinite compared to your experiences, the number of times your back is hurt over the course of the last 10 years, 15 years. And the physical, well, that keeps getting replaced every 2 years. So that you don't even have the same tissue there, same bones, same nerves. They've all been replaced. Okay, so if that's the case, then the only thing that is changing it from the way God intended it to be to what it is the way you believe. Because you've been told it's permanent. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing they can do. I love when doctors tell people there's nothing I can do. Oh, by the way, pay me. It's like going to the mechanic. He says, well, there's nothing I can do. Pay me. That's $180. Come back in 2 weeks and I'll look at your car again. And then I'll decide if there's nothing I can do again. And then you'll pay me again. And 2 weeks later, you can come back again. That's what we've been taught to believe is doctors. Do you know the whole idea of a doctor was always prior to about 1800 was just the guy that had the most experience. He was the guy that had lived through the most tragedies. Actually, was the guy that, or woman, that for that matter, old grandma, that happened to had happened to themselves something. And when you come walking in with suddenly a red leg or different kinds of things that have now attacked you, they go, oh, I know what that is. Here, put some Bisquick on it, or have a little bit, go get some swamp grass and rub it on there and it'll go away. The guy had that 17 years ago. You got too close to poison over, or you got a bug bite. Or you got you took a hammer and a nail in the hand. So just go out and wash it out really good, and then go down to the thing, get some salt and rub some salt in it. And when you're done with that, bandage it up nice and clean, but put it in the sun so that the sun will make it dry. Because if it gets dry, it'll get better. They know from experience. Experience makes doctors. Not diplomas from pharmaceutically sponsored and CCP-driven institutions that only teach one way, and that's their pills. Any other way is considered quack. I know because I went through the education, and that's the way they taught it. They teach us reflexology and then laugh about it as they're teaching it, like, oh, this is really bullshit. But we have to teach it, when in fact it's the real truth. And the shit that they're teaching is the bullshit. You can't even get a research grant if you don't go through them. because you can't even get a grant from the federal government unless you're a researcher with an approved researching institution. So the only research that goes through is the things that they want researched. Bullshit. Pain is a signal. And like any signal, like a guard dog, if you're going to sit there and ignore the guard dog, he's going to get louder and louder and louder and louder and get mean because he wants to get your attention. And you're not listening. All you're doing is yelling at him to shut up. But when you start paying attention to what he's barking at, good dog, good dog, he shuts up because he knows he's doing a good job. That's what your pain is. So start embracing it like that. When you feel something, what are you trying to tell me? And if you don't know, here comes one of those big lefts. I know not because I ask not, I'm asking. What is it trying to tell me, God? I know not because I ask not, so I'm asking. He'll show you. He shows my patients all the time. When did this first start? Oh, I don't really know. Well, let's ask. Ask God. And then see what he tells you. Oh my God. I just had this thing pop in my head. Well, what is it? I was 5 years old, and well, tell me about it. That's how it works. That's how it works with pain. That's how it works with insomnia. That's how it works with the breath of God. When we speak it, speak positives. Don't curse ourselves. Don't call ourselves anything but a son of God, a champ, a genius. Yeah. How do you go? The champion of broadcasting. Yeah, you're right. Heavyweight champion of podcasting. It's my invitation. Anyways, brother, what I want you to do for your therapy, when you're starting to feel these signals and these symptoms are telling you something's coming, stress, insomnia, ask God, what is it? So you can put your eyes on it. And then say, hey, I'm not playing. With your mouth, with the Spirit of God, with the breath of God, you command it to leave. Go. I'm not playing. Oh, by the way, it will listen to you, because if you start speaking with the authority of God, that God gave you that authority, it has to listen, especially if you're putting the light on the situation. Now, if you really want to play hardball, and let's say it's saying, you know what, I know Peter, I know Paul, but I don't know you. And it decides to keep popping at you. Then you can go back to God and say, okay, God, it wants to play. So let's play. You want to play hard? You want to play soft? I play soft. You want to play hard? I'll play hard. And you play hard. God, show me them. I've seen demons. I have. And when you see them, the good thing is now you can bind them because you put your eyes on it. You can't bind something you don't see. I mean, that you don't know is there. Okay, once it's identified itself, that's why Jesus would ask it. Not ask, he'd tell. He'd command, identify yourself. He wanted to know what it was. He knew what it was. He wanted us to know what it was. And they always had to tell who they were. They had to manifest. So now, because they've identified, and you know right where they're at. Like I saw this big black spider in my clinic one time. I'll tell you that story another time, not today. And I saw the same creature in the cancer center, over 5 feet, red eyes. Yeah, now that you identify it, better not just tell it to leave. No, you bind it. In the name of Jesus, you're bound and thrown to the pit of hell. See, they don't want to hear that, because what Jesus binds is bound for eternity. That's a life sentence in an eternal life. We have that power. Why? Because he said, anything I did, you can do. They begged him. He identified them in the pit, in that man that was crazy and breaking chains and all kinds of things. And when he said, Spirit, come out of him. And then the spirits begged him, please, Lord, please, don't cast us into the abyss before our time. They knew it's coming. 1,000 years, 2,000 years, but they knew it was coming. Please. All right, into the pigs. And he sends them into the pig, and the whole chain of pigs runs off the cliff and kills. But he was demonstrating for everyone to see what we can do. See, we have this power, especially when we ascend and we start seeing this stuff for really what it is. That's why I'm not afraid of this stuff. You know, I know that God is providing. I knew God was going to provide restoration for them when they took my first wife. And that's what I got with Anna. Better than I ever dreamed was out there. More than I felt I deserved, and certainly more than I could get at 50, almost 60 years, 55, 56 years old. And I'm going to get a beauty like that? Are you kidding? I don't have any money. I'm not handsome. What do I have to offer? Boom. But he promised everything that he promises. He keeps. God keeps all his promises. Big left. All these spiritual truths. And we're just getting started. We're just getting started. This is just the first couple chapters. Hey, guy. All right. So the next one, I'm going to wait a day. Hopefully, if you do get a chance to watch these, at least one, please send me back a quick note, even a text that says, hey, I watched your film. Thank you. Or something. You don't even have to thank me. Just say, let me know that you're watching. I'm going to send you step by step everything. The next one is going to be water. Oh, by the way, just to wet your whistle a little bit, there's a reason I cook. You said you like the way I cook. You know, there's a reason I cook the way I do. Not going to give away all my secrets, but they will be in the future videos. I'm going to share with you my secret and why I cook and why it's so good. I promise, because you're my friend. Oh, by the way, this is between us. So don't, anyways, adios, my friend, muchacho. And I will talk to you on the next video.